Hi Diablo 3 fans, I am Harnor, and welcome to my Crusader Triple Bane Condemn build. The clip you are watching right now comes from my early test run when I first designed the build about a week into December 2017. Since I'm not a fan of glass cannon builds, as soon as I had a chance to genuinely test the crazy streaker approach, which is the standard build, I set out to design an alternate balanced approach to Condemn, which allows me to actually stand up to the mobs which I encounter. I make no claims that this build is stronger than the Condemn standard version, but it is sturdier and a great grinding tool for farming high-end greater rifts. Finally, and critically, it allows me to play the Condemn skill using a completely different playstyle, which I find more engaging and ultimately far more satisfying. It is a finely balanced combination of stationary and stutter step combat that uses two simultaneous damage dealers at virtually all times. And so here we are with the Triple Bane Condemn build. Firstly, let's cover the build itself, then have a look at a sample run, and at the end of the video you'll also have a chance to review all of my and my hirelings' skills and equipment. So now onto the build. The name Triple Bane Condemn comes from the three legendary gems used: Bane of the Trapped, our build's damage multiplier, Bane of the Stricken, the damage accelerator here, and Bane of the Powerful. Now, Bane of the Powerful is actually a step back on the damage mitigation scale. Esoteric Alteration gem, after all, as used by the standard build, negates 60% of all non-physical damage and grants some serious resist bonuses when low on health. Bane of the Powerful, by contrast, only gives a 15% damage absorption versus elites and non-versus standard mobs. However, in the final balance of things, that 15% plays an important role, and there are plenty of other sources of damage mitigation here that will come into play in conjunction with that 15%. Significantly also, Bane of the Powerful does act as another damage multiplier on top of the Bane of the Trap, and that 35% extra damage versus elites that it provides is really, really important. Now let's cover the skills. While the standard variant uses a slash with the guard rune only to the extent that the attack keeps up the armor bonus, slash with electrify rune used by Triple Bane Condemn is an actual active attack with which you should be pummeling the mobs 99% of your time in combat. And it has a triple effect in mind. Number one is to generate wrath. At 1.1 attacks per second, which is your minimum base attack speed with this build, that translates to 5.9 wrath points per second. Number two objective with slash electrify rune is supplementary damage. Because you are attacking so much with it, even though it is not really a huge damage dealer, it will over 15 minutes produce a significant bonus. And keep in mind that slash with electrify rune does still benefit from the armor of Akan's damage bonus. The third reason to use slash with electrify rune is the defensive value of its stun effect. The stun effect is basically a very significant area attack. It affects a 90-degree cone that is 12 yards long. The chance to stun is only 25%, but the stun lasts 2 seconds. Doing the basic math, at 1.1 attacks per second, that means that the average affected mobs are going to be stunned for 58% of the time. And when your Laws of Valor kicks in, that pushes the stun chance above 60% of the time. And that brings us to the second skill, Laws of Valor with the Frozen in Terror rune. The standard build requires Laws of Valor to be paired with the Unstoppable rune, as the build's intermittent use of slash attack requires an additional wrath generator to avoid running dry. But the non-stop use of slash in the Triple Bane Condemn build effectively resolves the wrath regeneration issue. You can still use the Unstoppable rune if you like, of course, but my recommendation here is Frozen in Terror. The ability to have a controlled area stun at your disposal is just as useful as it sounds. Once you get a hang of it, you'll find that this powerful defensive burst, when used in a timely manner, will get you out of all sorts of trouble. Just as a practice, try using Frozen in Terror just after your iron skin wears out. This will give you some additional time that you can stand still without subject of being pummeled by the mobs. And once you get a hang of the timing, of course, then you'll be able to adapt the skill to suit your individual playstyle and obviously specific scenarios. Now, the rest of the active skills in the build are identical to the standard, and they are Condemn with the Vacuum rune for the primary damage, Provoke with Too Scared to Run rune for defense and wrath generation, Iron Skin with Steel Skin rune for raw damage mitigation, and finally Akarat's Champion for, well, virtually everything worthy about this build. You've got increased damage, you have damage mitigation, wrath regeneration, and extra life should you take a fatal hit, and of course the synergy with the Akan's armor set that lies at the heart of this build. On that note, because when Akarat's Champion is active, all your wrath costs are halved, your actual goal when playing the Triple Bane Condemn should be to keep Akarats up at all times. And that in turn, in fact, leads me to passive skills. Vigilant, the 20% non-physical damage reduction plus a bit of healing per second is the strongest choice here. Your goal should be not dropping your Akarat's buff, as I said already, rather than worrying about what happens when you die. Don't die is your objective. So indestructible passive, while kind of supposedly useful, is actually right out here as it offers no active protection. The Long Arm of the Law passive extends the length that your Laws of Valor would be active, but since the Frozen in Terror doesn't really have a sustained passive effect, the Long Arm of the Law passive simply doesn't apply here. The 20% damage mitigation from Vigilant, on the other hand, is ever present and very handy in your efforts to keep your Akarat's Champion buff up at all times. Now, the other passives used here, again, are the same as with active skills. They are the same as the standard Condemn variant. You've got Heavenly Strength, so you can wield your two-handed weapon in one hand, Holy Cause for damage bonus and healing, and Finery for a whole boatload of strength, and thus damage, and of course a fair bit of damage mitigation that comes with strength as well. Now, let's have a look at the equipment itself. The focus priority of your equipment should be really identical as the standard build, i.e. cooldown reduction. It has to be at 56% or higher to keep the Akarat's Champion buff at all times. You've got critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and bonuses to holy damage. There's one difference here, though, and that is life per hit, which the Triple Bane Condemn utilizes and which is recommended on both your weapon and on your bracers. Additionally, just as a side note, on my legs I happen to use a bonus to slash damage for a bit of extra damage, but that last item is really priority B, so if you don't have it, don't fret. I just thought I'd point it out just because I have it. Now let's have a look at the Kanai Cube. In the weapon area, you will have the Blade of Prophecy in the weapon slot for the damage bonus to Condemn. Then Illusory Boots must go in the Kanai Cube here. While the standard build typically equips the actual Illusory Boots on the character and drops something along the lines of Leoric's Crown into the cube for the extra cooldown reduction, the Triple Bane Condemn has to have the Illusory Boots in the cube, period. In the jewelry slot, the item of choice is the Convention of Elements for the obvious damage bonus. Now, the equipment itself will look as follows. The Furnace is your weapon of choice. Triple Bane Condemn focusing on cooldown reduction and life per hit as primary stats, and the standard build using only the cooldown reduction. Because you already have your Illusory Boots in the Kanai Cube, you can now complete the armor of a Khan using the actual boots in the Triple Bane Condemn variant, which opens up a neck slot that was taken up in the standard build by the necklace of a Khan. So for the Triple Bane Condemn, this opens up an opportunity for the Endless Walk necklace and ring set, with your necklace focusing on damage and the ring splitting its priorities between damage and cooldown reduction. Your successful gameplay, in fact, will for a great part depend on your ability to balance the attack bonus gained from, or damage bonus gained from standing still, and your defensive bonus gained when moving. On the remaining finger slot, Unity is the perfect choice here, as it not only gives you a massive defensive boost, but also a 15% damage versus elites. Your hireling, of course, must wear another Unity ring for the defensive effect to work, and this is a very different approach from the standard build, which uses the focus and restraint rings for an all-out assault. Now, the belt in the Triple Bane Condemn version has to be the Vigilante belt, as this is the only belt that provides cooldown, and you do have to have your total cooldown above the 56% threshold. The standard build does have some options, with the Leoric's Crown being in the Kanai cube. You could possibly go with something like the String of Ears, and a couple other potentials are there. But with the Triple Bane Condemn, you absolutely must have the Vigilante belt. Strong arm bracers are required to get the damage out of the Condemn with Vacuum Rune effect. Life on hit, however, is recommended in the Triple Bane Condemn variant to stack with the heal effect from your weapon. Finally, pretty straightforward, the Frighter's Wrath Shield completes the build with, well, its massive Condemn damage bonus. That covers my basic skills and equipment walkthrough. Let's quickly, though, summarize this and have a look at defensive bonuses that both builds provide, and then a comparison of the attack bonuses. So the defensive bonuses for the standard build come from the Esoteric Alteration Gem, String of Ears belt if used, and the Slash skill with Guard Rune. By contrast, the Triple Bane Condemn has the Endless Walk set, the necklace and ring, the Unity ring, the 15% versus elites from the Bane of the Powerful gem. It has the stun effect from the Slash with Electrify rune. It has the Laws of Valor with the Frozen in Terror rune. It has the Vigilant passive, and of course tons and tons, lots more life per hit. Now, I won't go into specific numbers here, but it should be clear at this point that the Triple Bane Condemn build is a far more defensively viable option here. Let's have a look at damage now. The standard build uses the Bastion's Will ring set, i.e. the focus and restraint rings. The great thing about that is, at all times, you get a 100% bonus to your damage. That is a steep curve to contend with, and Triple Bane Condemn deals with it as follows. The Endless Walk and Amulet ring set hypothetically also could go up to 100% damage, but realistically speaking, since there'll be a lot of moving about, you will at times be at 0%, with the average being someplace in the middle. Thus far then, the standard build is a stronger option. However, then you have the Unity ring, which gives you 15% additional damage, and I'm focusing on elites because typically you're fighting an elite and you're going to be killing the trash mobs faster than the elites anyway, so you really are looking at when the elite goes down. So you've got this 15% from the Unity ring to damage versus elites. Then you have the Bane of the Powerful, and depending whether you've already killed an elite or have not killed it, you are anywhere between 15 and 35% on the damage bonus. So the totals look as follows. The standard build is always at your 100% bonus, and the Triple Bane Condemn shifts between 30 and 150%, with the average being 90. Maybe tiny bit less, that depends how well you play. What that really says is that a lot of your run with Triple Bane Condemn comes down to how comfortable you are with the build, what is your playing finesse, so to speak. And that takes us to the intangibles area. Because Triple Bane Condemn is a lot sturdier, though, that 10% damage that on average you will be missing, and or maybe more, I don't know, can be offset via the Oculus Ring. You should be able, with the Triple Bane Condemn, to stand inside the Oculus Ring a lot more than with the standard build. And this concludes the basics of the Triple Bane Condemn build. Now let's have a look at some actual gameplay with my live commentary, as it were. And as a reminder, at the end of the video, you'll be able to review all the skills and equipment for both my character and for my hireling. Enjoy. Alright, let's do this. I'm going to run a Greater Rift 115 for the purposes of this demo. And priority 1 right off the bat is to find an elite pack, which I just did. And we're going to get rid of it so that we can proc the extra 20% bonus on the Bane of the Powerful gem. And I'm trying to stay as much in the Oculus Ring as I can. And I just made a mistake right off the bat. I lost my Acrats. I will use the time that it is down to actually scout a little bit. And we, right off the bat, have another elite, which, by the way, doesn't make it more dangerous. It really is just a matter of playing it right and not losing the Acrats champion shield, or buff, as it were. Once the first elite goes down, I'm, by the way, starter stepping. Those little movements that I do, I'm not just running. I keep on hitting the mobs with my slash. So I'm doing double damage effectively from two sources, from Condemn and Slash. As I was saying, as when the first elite goes down, it will get, there we go, easier immediately. The damage boost is significant. Let's just bring in some trash mobs into this. There we go. I have to admit, it is about an hour and a half past the time when I should have gone to sleep tonight. I just wanted to make this video for you guys. And I feel like I'm a little bit off on my timing. In an ideal world, I lost Acrats again. In an ideal world, what I want to do is wait till about a second or half a second maybe after my iron skin wears out, and then hit the mobs around me with Laws of Valor, the Frozen in Terror rune, to kind of boost my defense during that time period. I also have to make a confession here. I normally farm about 2 levels lower than I am right now, just because I only bring Caldeson's gems up for my armor upgrades. So this is a tiny bit out of my comfort zone. It's just that my times are so overwhelming that I feel fairly comfortable that this will be a pretty decent run, unless I really bungle it up or I get a particularly bad map. Usually I don't stick around trash mobs too much, because you do want to be refreshing that Bane of the Powerful, but when I've got a good bunch like this, I quickly kind of thin them out and move on. And this is not my favorite map, to be honest. I'm wasting, what now, good 10 seconds just running. Alright, we do have an elite here, but the density is suspect at best. And these guys obviously are not interested in fighting me. There are better things to do, like sleeping. I lost Acrats again. Talking and playing makes this more difficult. Alright, they are stuck, so I can't use Oculus Ring. This is a really bad spot, to be honest. I need to thin out the trash mobs if I want to attempt to drag the named. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and move these guys. Sometimes they follow, sometimes they don't. Here they are. I got lucky on this one. Yeah, some of these named mobs are totally lethargic, and especially in thin hallways, it can be a make it or break it scenario. Sometimes you just will not move. But I got lucky here, so let's finish them off, since my Bane of the Powerful is about to time out. Alright, perfect, just in time. Incidentally, if you are pushing the timer like I just did, that's an indicator this is not a really good map. Here's our first pylon. Yeah, if I were on a good map, you shouldn't really be testing the limits. I have a 2 minute and 35 or something like this second window in which to kill the next elite, and I shouldn't even be coming close to that. So this already lets you know this is not the best of maps. Now, of course, we've got the shield pylon on, our first pylon, and that makes me invulnerable, which means I can stand and do my maximum damage. That having said, if I can't get these guys on the next COE cycle when the holy damage triples, I have to move. Ooh, that was good. Alright, another elite. Ooh, a double elite. Perfect. To be fair, probably about a triple elite is an optimum, especially if you've got an open space like I'm here right now. A double elite, if your timing is right, you're playing well, you're awake, it's not way past your bedtime. A triple elite is probably the optimum. You can really just harvest some serious experience and get your progression timer really ahead of the par. Alright, one down. Alright, there are not enough mobs here. We have to drag this guy, and maybe he'll come, maybe he won't. Alright, there's a blue elite. And this guy has already forgotten about us. I'm going to check if there's a pylon, and there isn't. Ooh, and we've got some arcane. This is a good spot, though, to deal with arcane. When I've got space, this is what I'm going to do. The arcane beams move at a certain speed, and they all move, and they also never change their original direction. So what you want to do is either kind of move out of their way as they come, or run across the beam in the opposite direction to its rotation. That basically nullifies all damage. So as long as you've got some maneuvering space, there we go. We killed one of these guys. As long as you've got some space to maneuver, just take it calmly, and you can handle arcanes very much the same as you would anything else. Otherwise, obviously, the damage is too horrific to endure. Alright, so we've got finally actually some advancement on our counter. A bit of ahead of a curve, but this is not a great map. Okay, there's a named here. And some trash mobs. This is not a great spot. I'm going to try to kill as many of these trash mobs as I can. And then these guys here. And then I'll see if I can drag this guy. Maybe there's a room ahead. Yikes. Lost accurates again. Vigilant passive is actually very useful here. Even without accurates I can do quite a bit, especially if I just go into stutter step. Alright, we've got to pull this guy. Yeah, these windy hallways are not really conducive to record-setting times, but at least we moved him. I think I saw someplace a Juggernaut quality on him, which is really bad. Oh no, perhaps not. It's knockback, knockback, that's what he's got. He's still alive. Ooh, this is a power pylon. That is very good. Where are you? Come here. Man, I swear. Some of these guys have Alzheimer's. Alright, I'm gonna kill this guy first because I'm sick of him. And now we'll deal with this bunch. Well, I called the devil out of the bag. This guy does have Juggernaut on him. And he's stuck, so I couldn't quite hit him from that spot. Oh, and I just did not kill him with the pylon. We've got to drag him. Okay, well there's enough mobs to certainly finish that guy off. Here he comes. Slowly, but at least this one moved. Come on. Alright, now we've got Arcane brewing, and I lost the bloody Hakarats again. I'm just going to run this. Yeah, not enough space here to maneuver on the Arcane beams, so I'm just going to skip. And this is the end of the level, typically. Nothing interesting here. Not enough trash mobs. I'll just finish them off. I don't think I have enough experience bar left, or progression bar left, to refresh my Bane of the Powerful, so I'm just gonna finish it. I can't go through because these guys are standing right on the exit gate. Alright, here we go. Alright, I will not be able to refresh my Bane of the Powerful, so let's just kill these guys and see what Great Rift Guardian we get. Come on. What is it? Ugh. This guy. Well, Man Carver hits hard and has a bazillion hit points. The good news, there is no particular reason I shouldn't make the time. The bad news is it is a boring, tedious fight. Oops. Now I'm using stun, and this guy just hits like a hammer. Yeah, I think 2 levels lower, which is where I'm used to farming him, he would not have taken down all my life. Yes, I've got about, half a minute left on my Bane of the Powerful. The advantage, of course, of having the Bane of the Powerful gem is that even when my 20% bonus goes down, I still have the 15% remaining bonus against elites and the damage absorption from elites, which it gives me. So it's still quite a handy gem to have equipped. Here we go. And now it's just a slugfest. I just have to be careful so this guy doesn't kill me. He does hit hard. Again, stutter stepping is the best method if I have to move, because I can continue on attacking him and get a defensive bonus. Standing in his rune circle obviously is a bad idea. don't think I can make this in under a minute. Or actually, over a minute, I mean, obviously. Nope. This final act of irritability. Decide to jet away from me, but there we have it. Alright, let's take a quick selfie. And I hope you enjoyed the Triple Bane Condemn build, and hope to see some of you Crusaders out there in the field utilizing it. Stick around, I'm going to go through the list of skills and items that I have in just a second here. All the best, hope you enjoyed the video.